Hey goalies, Keaton here. So let's talk about how we actually get into a stronger stance. Now, in a previous video, I broke down layers into different stances. So layer 1, puck is higher, layer 2, mid-range, layer 3, closer. There's gray areas to those layers, but let's basically talk about how we get into a stronger stance. Now, obviously, let's say a taller stance is allowing us to be more mobile, allows us to look over bodies, just allows for easier transfer of movements or transfer from one position to another, because when we're wider, we tend to end up loading on that back leg and just feel a little too heavy. And if the situation is a little higher or the puck itself is a little higher with zero to little backdoor threats, being taller is always going to help us be slightly more mobile. All right, give us more options. I usually tell a lot of kids it's easier to get wider than it is to get skinnier. So it's easier to start skinnier as the puck enters the zone or as the puck is higher above the dots. And then as the puck gets closer, then we can get into a wider stance. Now, a lot of kids end up hinging from the lower back and they end up getting the legs wider without physically actually getting stronger. Now, again, the end goal is we are becoming a little bit more primed in our ready stance because, again, the puck is getting closer and that is a huge threat. All right, guys, so now let's talk to how we actually get into that stronger, let's say layer 2 stance when the puck is just, let's say, above the hash marks. So what I would recommend is we start to push the glutes back. That gets our entire upper body to pitch a little bit more forward, directly angled down to the puck is the ultimate goal with the head, the shoulder, and the eye angle. All right, so hinging with the hips, naturally what happens is my elbows kind of come out of rib cage a little bit more. They project in front a little bit more. Still would like you guys to be holding a little bit more of an elbow bend. Some kids get a little too long with the arms, but we can talk about that later. So hinging with the hips first, and then we get our feet wider by bending our legs more. So I will get a little bit more of that forward knee bend, really get a little stronger into my inside edges. But again, this strength is being controlled by my hips. My hips are a large muscle group. We want to use a larger muscle group than a lower or smaller muscle group, which is the lower back. So we want to make sure that the glutes and the hips are supporting this transfer into a stronger stance. Again, I have a nice forward knee bend. The hips are up and back, almost like the tailbone is pointed more to the crossbar. All right. And this will allow us for a lot of speed and give us a really good form to be able to react with. All right, now getting into a stronger layer 3 stance is basically the same process, just more intense. So as we go from layer 2 to layer 3, we want to make sure, again, we push the glutes back. We get that support from that larger muscle group. We get a little bit more of that forward knee flexion, and we get a little bit more internal. Now, this is all based off of what situation is in front of us, but we want to make sure we're able to seal the ice relatively quick, but we have to have a strong forward knee bend to do so. If kids end up too wide, all right, yes, maybe their knees are somewhat closer to the ice, not as obviously as much as it would be if we had that forward knee bend. But if we're here, we do not have the strength with the legs to be able to drive the knees down. And a lot of kids I see on breakaways in particular, they get locked out. All right, their legs are just way too long. The legs end up straightening or the knees end up lacking that forward knee bend. And then they're here and they just actually can't turn that well. They can't push and they can't drop. So again, hinge with the hips, get a nice strong forward knee bend, and you pushing your feet wider should include getting more of that forward knee flexion. Also with the ankles, but you can't bend the knees without bending the ankles. So more or less same thing. Hope that makes sense, guys. Hope this helps transform your game, and I hope this really simplifies how we are getting into a stronger stance, not only when, but how.